Welcome to my video. Today I wanted to talk to you about The Bloody Chamber by Angela Carter. Um, if you watched my last video, you know that I went into this with all kinds of arrogance, just thinking, it's only 125 pages. I'm just going to sit down and just read it in one sitting. No big deal, it's just fairy tale retellings. Little did I know. Um, First of all, I'll go ahead and say this book was not written for me. Like, she did not have me in mind when she wrote these stories. Um, they're darker than I care for. They're more sexual than I care for. They just have like an angrier tone, like bitter tone to them that I don't care for. But fairy tales in and of themselves are typically dark and creepy and not Disney-esque at all. So, I mean, that's a me thing, that's not a her thing. She was just bringing out what was already there. So, one thing I wanted to mention before I really get into the book itself is the one like criticism that I heard repeatedly about her books was that she was I think they referred to her as pretentious because she uses a lot of big words. And the other part of that is her purple prose, too many descriptions, too flowery, too over the top, whatever. But I wanted to address specifically the use of the big words because something that has disturbed me for a long period of time is the idea that the average adult reader only reads at a 7th to 8th grade reading level. Like, just let that sink in for a minute. 7th to 8th grade. So that means that you're going along, and then when you're 14, you just stop learning. Like, what is that? That's ridiculous. And yet, people are out roaming the streets, roaming the world, out voting and making choices and everything with a 7th to 8th grade reading ability. Like, no wonder our country is so messed up. Like, they need to strip down the school district, and, well, they can't because the kids are running wild and have no manners, but ideally, they would strip it all down, the school districts, just down back to reading, writing, and arithmetic, because I've met people out in the big wide world who can't add or subtract either, and they're grown-ups and cashiers. So what is that? But anyway, that's for other people to discuss, not me. So the book has, I'm not sure how many. This book is full of short stories. It has 10 of them. Is that 10? Yeah, 10. 10 short stories. The longest and most, I guess, fleshed out is The Bloody Chamber, the titular character or titular story. And it's about, well, it's a retelling of Bluebeard. Basically, this young girl marries this rich guy, and he swoops her off into, his mansion where he grew up, and he gives her all these keys, and he tells her, don't go in my little chamber. You wouldn't like it. It's gross. There's spider webs and horrible things. You just don't go down there. You won't like it. And, of course, then he leaves the house, and then she runs right down there as if possessed with that one key to go see what's in there, and it's bad stuff, and she finds out her husband's a monster. And should I make this spoilery? Yeah, because I want to talk about things. So it's his 3 previous wives. They're all dead in various sorts of torture. He killed them, and so stands to reason he's going to kill her next. And he comes home. He knows that she was going to run right down there with that key. And so he's all set to kill her. And somehow her mother knows that she's in trouble, like through some sort of mother-daughter connection, like sixth sense, whatever. And she comes and she rescues her. And then the girl lives with this, like, sad, like, weak, blind man. Um, Basically, she traded in this big, strong, violent man for this, like, emasculated sort of male creature who is now her boyfriend. I don't know if she married him. I guess maybe she did. Anyway, but they kill him, they get rid of him, and then they sell his estate, and, or they don't sell his property, but they sell, like, what he has and give it away to charity. And they start a school for the blind in his home, and kind of they are back to square one, like poor wise, but now they just have a better life. So I mean, overall, it's a good story, but the end felt rushed to me. Now I could be wrong. Maybe somebody thought that it was a glorious, well-paced thing. But really, like, once he decides he's going to kill her, the other, like, 3 pages or whatever are just all smushed together, just like, and then this happened, and this happened, and this happened. It reads more like an epilogue, and I didn't care for it, but whatever. So that's the first story, Bluebeard retelling. I wasn't familiar with Bluebeard before I read this, so I'm sure there's a lot of things to unpack in there that I missed because I'm not familiar with the story to begin with. The second is The Courtship of Mr. Lion. It's a Beauty and the Beast retelling. It's pretty much the Disney version. If I had it to do over again, I'd probably just watch Disney's animated Beauty and the Beast instead. So, only instead of being the beastly whatever he is, like a lion. Well, I guess he is. He's a lion in this, and in the other one, I don't know, he's something else. I don't know what you would call the beast other than a beast. So, there you go. Alright, so The Tiger Bride, what I have written here, it's another Beauty and the Beast telling. The thing that I liked about it, like, this girl, instead of being stolen from her father, she's gambled away by her father. And instead of, like, him, the beast, turning back into a man, she decides to kind of shed her humanity, shed propriety, and she becomes a beast, a tiger. Instead, like, she joins him in the depths rather than pulling him back up to, like, the height of humanity or whatever. So I thought that was pretty cool. And in doing so, she doesn't have to go back to her father, who, like, lost her gambling. I mean, what in the world kind of father is that? The third book is Puss in Boots. It's not my cup of tea. Full transparency, I didn't read it. I started reading it and I thought, wow, this is supposed to be funny in the same way that Don Quixote is supposed to be funny. But really, this story was only how many pages? From 68 to 83. Do the math. 15 pages, and I couldn't get through it. It was just like cheesy dad humor, like in, Don Quixote. And I don't like Don Quixote, so I don't know why I would like this. And I didn't. The next story was The Earl King, and the descriptions and just the use of language were just so gorgeous. And then at the very end, like, well, it's not even the very end, but it's going along and it's just so interesting and, you know, deep, and, you know, you're just absorbed into the story and the atmosphere. And then so many of these stories can be described as and then. It was going along nicely. This is what I wrote on my note. It was going along nicely, and then he skinned her like a rabbit. So gross. Such a icky description that I did not need to have rattling around in my head. And I can live 1,000 years without hearing that ever again. So there you go. Speaking of things that I would have rather not heard at all, ever, the Snow King. The Snow King, I'm not alone in thinking it's just the most disgusting, pedophilic, just ew, yucky story in the world. But basically, a count is dreaming up this girl. He wants this perfect little, pale-faced, dark-haired, pink, red-lipped girl, and she'd just be so gorgeous. And each time, like, the Countess is watching him fawn over this little girl in really icky kind of, this is not like a father-daughter relationship kind of way. And each time she tries to, like, dispose of the little girl to get the girl out of her life, she loses a piece of her clothing, a piece of her status to this little girl. And just the whole thing is just ick, ick, ick. Just ick. I wish I hadn't read it. I wish I could unread it. Like, yes, that's what I want. I want to unread it. But that's not possible. So there you go. The next story, The Lady of the House of Love, was actually my favorite of this book. I didn't care for the ending. It seemed kind of anticlimactic, and I didn't care for what happened at the end because, frankly, I'm not entirely sure what happened. She's a vampire. She doesn't like being a vampire, but it's what she is, so that's how she lives. And she feels bad when she, murders children and little bunny rabbits, but the girl's gotta eat, so she does it anyways. And finally, she does her tarot cards every day, and that's just like how she passes the time when she's not, killing little innocent creatures. And it always comes up with death and misery and everything. And then one day, it comes up with love. And she's never drawn love for herself before. So she's interested in that, but she doesn't know what to do with it, really. And this young, handsome, virginal kind of man comes along with his blonde hair, and he's just beautiful, and he is lured to the castle by the old hag who works for her, and he pities her. He sees her, emaciated, pale, sickly self, and he pities her. And then at the end, somehow, she just kind of up and vanishes and disappears and kind of shrivels up and dies. And when I was reading it, I was just like, what did I just read? Really, what did I just read? Which, of course, is the, name of the game with this story. This whole book is, what the heck did I just read? But that's, like, I don't even know what happened. She vanished. And I don't know what Angela Carter was trying to get to with, get out with this idea that she's living miserably alone, then she falls in love, or whatever, a suitable man comes along, and then she withers up and dies. Like, is that supposed to be an indictment of marriage? I don't know what she was getting at. You know, reading this book, if she were still alive, I would suggest therapy. Lots and lots of therapy. But she is not, so no therapy is required. The next story is The Werewolf. And this little girl, it's Little Red Riding retelling. She's out, she's, marching along trying to go see Grandma, and she encounters a wolf, and instead of, being afraid and running away, she takes a knife to it, and she lops off its hand, or its paw, and when she gets to Grandma's house, Grandma doesn't have her hand anymore, and then she, instead of being a sweet little girl who loves her grandma, she basically gets the townsfolk to drive Grandma from her home, so then she lives in Grandma's house, which, that's an even darker turn than when Grandma usually gets eaten. Well, she got eaten. When she usually gets eaten by the wolf in the story. So, yeah, her little bitty granddaughter drove her from her own home and had the villagers chase her down and out of the town. Like, oh my goodness. Isn't that something? Alright. The Company of Wolves. What to say about that? The girl isn't supposed to go see Grandma. She's warned against it. Is that the one I'm thinking of? Oh, whatever. They all blend together because I didn't like the wolf stories. So there you have it. Basically, I forget all about this one. That's funny. And it's not even my least favorite of the story. The one thing I did like in this one, since I don't really remember it at all. I really don't. Wow. Oh, okay, this is the one where she goes out, this Little Red Riding Hood girl goes out, and she comes across a wolf, and he says that he knows a way to her grandma's house that's faster, and if he gets there first, that she'll give that, he'll win a kiss, like she has to give him a kiss. Well, she wants to kiss him, so she takes her time getting there, and the wolf eats Grandma, and, I don't understand exactly what happened at the end. It says, like, she's nobody's food. The little girl is nobody's food. So she kind of seduces him. And then it says that sweet and sound she sleeps in Granny's bed between the paws of the tender wolf. So she fell in love with the wolf who ate her grandma. Ew. Just ew. I don't. Again, therapy. If you enjoy this book, if this book really speaks to you in your heart, BetterHelp can help you. That's what I'm thinking. And if not, Jesus. Seek Jesus. And I mean that not even facetiously. Seek Jesus. Alright, the one thing from the Company of Wolves that I did like, it was just I don't know, there's something commonplace about macaroni that just makes this funny. And there was a woman once bitten in her own kitchen as she was straining the macaroni. That made me laugh. I don't know why, but like I said, it's common. Macaroni is so commonplace. It is not the stuff of fairy tales. And, yeah. It's just in her kitchen making some Kraft macaroni and cheese, and a wolf came in and bit her. That's pretty awful. The last one was wolf Alice, and she was raised by wolves. The nuns tried to like take her in and tame her, and that didn't really work very well. So then the Duke, who was a werewolf, spoiler, sorry about that, took her in, and they didn't live like as a family or like even interact with each other. They just shared a home. But I'm not sure why. Perhaps because of her feminist leanings, but Angela Carter was very obsessed with girls getting their periods and stuff, and so little wolf Alice was living there, and she got her period, and that was like the main event in the story, and I'm not sure how that's, worthy of a short story, but apparently it was. So that was my reading of The Bloody Chamber by Angela Carter. Now, obviously, I didn't take a class. I didn't dig too deep into like what she was getting at. I understand that it was in 1979, and Margaret Thatcher was the I'm going to say prime minister. But anyways, like she had, taken office, and like it was a big time for women. Women were moving forward, and yeah. So I understand like this was, part of feminist, groundwork, well, the suffragettes would be the real groundwork, but whatever. So I understand that this is like, feminist stuff that meant something to women who were rising up through the glass ceiling and all that. But to me, here in 2024, I don't feel oppressed as a woman. Like, I do what I want to do. And so, like, getting mad at the big bad wolf really isn't part of my life. So that's what I got out of it. This was not a book written for me. This was a book written for someone else. And if you like it, although I do think you need Jesus, good for you. You enjoy your books. That's one of the great things about books is that everyone can find something that they love, but this was just not for me at all. So, yeah, that was what I got out of The Bloody Chamber by Angela Carter. So today when I was at work, I started reading The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I'm really enjoying it so far, but I'm not too far into it. But I think that's more my speed, so I'm excited for that. And then once I'm done with that one, my plan is to start this beast, Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by Suzanne Clark. Look at this big thing. Of course, this little thing gave me trouble, so who knows, I could be reading this book for the rest of my life. Of course, I got through The Count of Monte Cristo, okay, so perhaps I'll be all right. All right, so that's that. If you love Angela Carter, comment below. Tell me all the ways I'm wrong. Be nice about it, but you can tell me all the ways I'm wrong. And if you didn't like it as well, subscribe, because you and I are kindred readers, because this was not for me. So yeah, thank you for watching my video. Subscribe, all that stuff, and I'll see you next time discussing Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and hopefully I'll have more insights then. I love those Bugs Bunny cartoons. So yeah, all right, good night.